Music. This is the new film by Sia, the pop star. She is the director. She is the writer. She did the music for this, and that is very important because this is a big passion project for her. This is a movie about a young teenager with autism whose grandmother dies, and she is then forced to be raised by her half-sister, played by Kate Hudson. I was interested in seeing this movie because I identify with people who are on the autism spectrum. I am highly functioning autistic, and it matters to me how people on the autism spectrum are portrayed in film. And there'd been a lot of negative buzz about this movie, and there's a reason for it. It is February 17th, 2021, and I may have just seen the movie this decade that will anger me the most, that frustrated me the most, a film that, as I think about it, I just finished watching it, makes me feel unclean, makes me feel icky. It is a horribly offensive, ugly, misguided, mean, terrible, terrible film. It makes me sick thinking about this movie in general. I think it is so ugly and offensive on so many levels, and I'm going to talk about all those things. I'm going to cover everything. This is going to be a long-ass review, people, because this movie pissed me off. But I try with every film I review. I even did it with Artemis Fowl, which I gave a 1 out of 10 to. I try to find something that's good in all film. I try to live by that principle that all films have something good in them. And I'm really trying with this movie because the stuff in it that may be okay is so overshadowed by the ugliness that comes with this movie. There is one thing about this film that I think is mildly serviceable, and it's a backhanded compliment. Every actor in this movie is basically dead to me. Like, I don't want to see them in any more movies ever again, except for one. Leslie Odom Jr. is trying in this movie, and I gasped when I saw that he was in this because I like that guy a lot. I think he's really talented. Right now, he's my pick to win Best Supporting Actor. He's so great in One Night in Miami. He's excellent in that movie, and he was obviously amazing in Hamilton. He's trying in this. They give him nothing. There, I guess, is one other thing. Maddie Ziegler, who's the main actress in this movie, she's a talented dancer. She was in all of Sia's big music videos for a while. I'm gonna swing from the chandelier, from the chandelier. And she was always like the little kid that was in those videos dancing her ass off. And she is talented as a dancer, not as an actress. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. But yeah, those are the only things about this movie that are mildly serviceable. And even that, I can't call them good. There is one thing about this movie that is as bad as anything I've ever seen in a movie, and that's its portrayal of autism. But let's take that out for a second. I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to sink my teeth into it and bite it like I'm biting into a steak with my bare hands. I'm going to talk about that. But even without that, the movie's boring. It's poorly directed. It is horribly edited. Like, I think this movie was edited by somebody who was using safety scissors and Gorilla Glue. There's not only scenes that don't know how to end, there's scenes that don't know how to begin. There's moments where the movie just cuts to a scene, and I'm like, wait a minute. Is this mid-conversation? Every scene needs to have like a beginning, a middle, and an end. It doesn't. And that's what happens when some pop star's head gets too big and they think that they can make a movie. Everything wrong about this movie falls on Sia. This is her baby, and it is a terribly made film. Even without the offensiveness that comes with its portrayal of people with autism, it's just poorly put together. The musical sequences are so dull. And that's the one thing I thought maybe we'd be able to kind of hang our hat on. Like, there are certain movies, The Greatest Showman's a prime example of this. The Greatest Showman doesn't have some moving or deep story, but I love the music, and it's got a good look to it, and the performances are great, and it keeps you going. These musical sequences are terrible. I mean, if you tried, you couldn't put together more dull, lifeless musical sequences. There's not a single song in here that is memorable at all, and I'm not a fan of Sia's music necessarily, but she has some good songs. Chandelier, that's a big power ballad. That's a good song. She has an amazing voice. Nothing about her talents translates to the making of this movie. The performances aren't good. Leslie Odom is passable. Everybody else, there's people who show up in this that I went, oh my God, what are you doing? Ben Schwartz with cornrows? What is he doing in this movie? Juliette Lewis is in a scene in this movie. Kate Hudson got nominated for a Golden Globe. And honestly, this movie got nominated for 2 Golden Globes. Just discontinue the awards. You can blame it on the pandemic. Discontinue the whole show. The whole program's gotta go. Just throw it in the trash and start over. Kate Hudson's awful in this. She's so miscast. I mean, she's playing a tortured, scarred, recovering alcoholic. And look, if you give a good performance, you can get lost in a role. But when I think scarred, tortured, I don't think Kate Hudson. Then there's the main performance by Maddie Ziegler. And look, she's 18 years old. And I blame the director in large part because of this, but I'm sorry, this is like one of the worst mainstream performances of all time, and I think that this is going to stick with her for the remainder of her career. This movie does for the autistic community what Birth of a Nation did for black people, and she's going to be the poster child for this. She is so bad in this movie. I don't know if she's a terrible actress. I put a lot of this on the director, but this is going to stick with her, I think, for the remainder of her career. The same way that, like, Breakfast at Tiffany's stuck with Mickey Rooney his entire career, with that horribly offensive Asian stereotype that he was in that movie. I think it's going to be the same thing for Maddie Ziegler here. Now we get into the meat and potatoes of what's wrong with this movie, and that's its portrayal of autism. Basically, what I read was that Sia tried to cast somebody with autism to be in this movie, to be the lead character in this movie, and they did, but upon realizing that it's a very difficult environment for somebody with autism, Sia changed her mind and cast Maddie Ziegler to be the main character of Music. Now, I'll say this, and this may not win me any friends, I don't actually have that big of a problem with someone who isn't autistic playing an autistic person. I really don't. Rain Man is one of my favorite movies, and I can't imagine anyone other than Dustin Hoffman playing that role. It's also worth noting that, yeah, of course, a film set is not a great place for somebody who's on the autism spectrum to be in. It's bright lights and it's very crowded and loud, and there's a lot of moving parts. You need to make that environment accessible to that particular actress. You can't just get discouraged after you cast them and say, we're going to go another direction. I think that's nonsense and shows that Sia clearly did not have a very good understanding of what autism actually is. And again, the performance is abysmal. It's god-awful. If I was directing an 8th grade play and a 12-year-old gave a performance like this, I'd pull them to the side and say, dude, get your books, go back to class, we'll get somebody else to play the role. That's how bad she is in this movie. That's how offensive she is in this movie. There are things that are in this movie that the autism community has clapped back against, and rightfully so. There's multiple scenes in this movie where the main character is having a breakdown, and she is consoled by essentially being wrapped up in a bear hug until she stops her breakdown. It has been known and documented many times that that is something that the autism community absolutely frowns upon. They view it as demeaning. Some people have even compared it to torture. They think it's something that has a real lasting long-term effect on the self-esteem of people with autism, and they put that in this movie. This is where I want to just breathe smoke, because I'm sorry, autism is something that affects a lot of families, affects a lot of children, and if you're making a movie about it and you're going to portray somebody who has autism, you can't get it wrong. I don't care if you're writing the script 17 times, you have to get it right. There was a terrible movie that came out a year ago called The Night Clerk, where Ty Sheridan played somebody who was on the autism spectrum. That's a bad movie. It's an awful movie. It was one of the worst movies of last year, but you know what? Ty Sheridan did a hell of a job. They did a good job of portraying a person that is on the spectrum, and I reviewed that movie and I applauded his performance. Bad film, but I gave him credit for that performance. The Sound of Metal, which is a movie that portrays disability, people who are deaf. Riz Ahmed put plugs in his effing ears for months, learned how to play the drums, learned sign language. That movie actually cast people who were deaf. It made that film feel authentic and real, not this pile of garbage which just cast a dancer, not an actress, but a dancer to play somebody with autism, and it's just so wrong. It's so wrong. This entire movie is wrong. If I ever had a child that was like me or similar to me and was on the autism spectrum, if someone showed them this movie, I would pull them aside and say, do not pay attention to this. This is not how the world reacts to you. It's not how the world should react to you. It is not a interesting or unique or introspective portrayal of who you are as a person. And if you have someone or have a child that's on the autism spectrum, don't show them this movie. And if you know somebody who isn't on the autism spectrum, still don't show them this movie. It is a boring, ugly, poorly written movie. I'd give it a 0 if I could. I can't stand this movie at all. It is like, it ruined my day. Don't see it. Don't support it. I know me raving and ranting about it may want to make some people, be like, oh man, I kind of want to watch this. Please don't. Please don't give this movie your money. I beg you, pay for something else. Watch something else. Go back and watch some of the other films that I've reviewed that I've given positive ratings to. Do not support this movie. Avoid it like the plague. Sincerely. And I understand, I'm kind of digging back up the old Chris Castellani here, the ranting, swearing, spitting in his car, Chris Castellani. But I'm sorry. I will never apologize for being passionate about this. Yes, I understand sometimes I've thrown a few tantrums because the Tigers might have lost a game. I acknowledge that was always over the top, and I regret many of the things that I've said in the throes of anger. I'm not going to apologize for this because this actually matters. This isn't some kid's game. This is a film that portrays something that affects a lot of people, and it did it as poorly as you could possibly do it. This is maybe going to be the worst movie that I see this decade. I had to get that off my chest. I don't like this movie at all. Please don't see it. All right. You can follow me on Twitter at Castellani2014. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. I'd ask you what you thought of this movie, but if you like this, please don't, just don't tell me. Honestly, this is one of those times. Comment on my review. Let me know what you thought of the review. I don't want to know what you thought of this personally, because I don't want to think about this movie ever again. All right. See you later, everybody. Peace and happiness.